Hello everyone, it is Memorial Day today. I hope everybody got to have a nice relaxing holiday, even in the middle of a friggin' pandemic that's got most of us indoors anyway. But I know like holiday celebrations couldn't be to usual standards, but I hope everybody had a nice relaxing day. This is going to be my second attempt at filming a review to AEW Double or Nothing, which happened on Saturday. My first attempt was quite pathetic, to say the least, because I was, I won't say I was drunk, but I was teetering on that line, and I was feeling the buzz quite significantly. And so, and I was not wearing a t-shirt, I was wearing a wife-beater tank top, and I looked like a drunken idiot, quite honestly, and it was not a great look, and fortunately, I was okay. I was uploading the video to YouTube, and then I realized. I guess I had sobered up by this point. I was like, I can't upload this. This is a mess. I can't upload this. This would be a complete fiasco to upload this. So I ultimately decided to scrap it, and I would refilm it whenever I got a chance to do that, which is right now. Please forgive the Happy St. Patrick's Day sign. I'm way behind. I haven't updated that thing since St. Patrick's Day because I've been in quarantine. So fuck it. Who cares? But anyway. AEW Double or Nothing. What did I think of the show? Overall, I enjoyed it. I went into it with very low expectations because, as I've said before, empty arena wrestling just doesn't work. It just doesn't. When you don't have the fans there, there's a significant component missing to making wrestling work. And when you don't have that, the show is missing a lot of energy, and it's hard to put on a show when there's no crowd there. And that's true for WWE, it's true for AEW, it's true for any show that's trying to operate under these current times. But in AEW's case, well, with WWE, it's like, all right, I'll watch WrestleMania. I've already subscribed to the network anyway, so it's not really any additional money coming out of my pocket. And I use the network to watch WCW, ECW, Crockett, old WWF stuff. So I mean, I'm going to be subscribed to the network anyway, so I thought, all right, I'll check out WrestleMania, no sweat off my back. AEW is a little different, where it's like, all right, you're asking for $50 for an empty arena pay-per-view, and I'm like, I don't know. And I think the pandemic really negatively impacted AEW in a lot of ways, where it brought a lot of their storylines to a screeching halt. They couldn't do the War Games match. All the momentum they had coming out of Double or Nothing, or not Double or Nothing, Revolution just got tossed out the window. And so that was a problem. And it just felt like a lot of their momentum just went out the door, and it was completely out of their control, and it sucked. And it's very unfortunate. And then you look at this week's Dynamite, and so one of the Bucks got hurt, Phoenix got hurt, Orange Cassidy got hurt, and Britt Baker got hurt, and Britt Baker's been like the best thing on the show the last few weeks. And it's like, oh my god, what is going on? And so I went into this pay-per-view, I ultimately decided, okay, I've ordered every AEW pay-per-view up to this point. I'll continue to do so, and we'll just see where the chips fall in this case. And pun fully intended, giving the casino theme that they were going for. Fortunately, I enjoyed the show. I actually ended up liking it a lot. And again, the empty arena show presents a bunch of problems that are just going to be there. Like, you don't have the same kind of crowd investment and the energy and the atmosphere that you would want from a wrestling show. But even with that, it's like, all right, I thought it was fun and stuff happened. I didn't feel like it was a show where I just watched a bunch of matches and nothing of consequence happened. I felt like I was, each match brought something a little bit different, and something happened in each of the matches, and that main event was a spectacle and a half. That thing was great. So overall, I really did enjoy the pay-per-view, way more than I thought I would. I was like, okay, good on you, AEW, you came through. Going through it match by match, we opened up with the Royal Rumble and Money in the Bank had a baby ladder match, the casino ladder match, which is basically what I said. It's the Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank crushed together, where entrants are coming in one at a time, but you win by climbing a ladder to get the title shot. And I'm like, okay, this feels like a Money in the Bank ripoff. And you know me, I've talked about this before. The whole, like, multi-man ladder match. I don't know why one-on-one ladder matches became passé. and nobody wants to do them anymore, and they just... Ladder matches feel like a cheap excuse just to cram 10 guys onto the show and call it a day. which is why I'm typically bored by them. They just feel like filler. And granted, in the case of something like Money in the Bank, like, okay, the winner matters, but it's guys diving off of ladders in a match that I'm not going to remember in 2 weeks. When really, you could have just done like a... It's a shame that these guys have to risk their bodies and do these daredevil stunts that nobody's going to remember, like a month or 2 months from now, because all of these matches look the goddamn same, whether it be Money in the Bank or, for a while, WrestleMania was always doing those IC title ladder matches where they would cram 7 to 8 guys in it, or TNA would do the Ultimate X matches, and all of those looked the same after a while with no build-up. They would just cram guys in there. And... this is just AEW's equivalent of that, I guess. Now, when I watch one of these matches, I'm like, okay, it's not going to be my cup of tea as far as like, ooh, what was my favorite match of the night? Because I can't remember a time where... and I've said this before, if the multi-man ladder match is the best match on a show, that's a problem. Because it's like, dude, it's just a car wreck. I mean, there's no substance there. It's just a car wreck. And you get... I almost wish that these matches would be shorter. Just as like, look, we're just here to see who wins, so just... don't kill yourselves in these type of things, please. Because again, I feel bad for the performers because I feel like I'm shitting on them, but it's like, they go out there, dive off of ladders, and nobody's going to remember it by the end of the show. So it's like, whatever. But what I look for in these matches, like, okay, can guys like get some shine, even if you do stuff that doesn't make any sense? Like, that's another problem with these things where it's only like 2 guys in the ring at a time and everybody else is just down on the floor for no reason most of the time, and it's like, all right. Why is nobody else getting into the ring and trying to stop somebody or something, But what I look for in these matches, like, okay, do 1 or 2 like highlight reel level spots that stand out. And Darby Allin had us covered there because the dude's a fucking lunatic. I mean, doing that dive with the skateboard and the spot that Brian Cage gave to him at the end, I'm like, that dude he's fucking crazy. Like, I love Darby. It's like, dude, you're going to get hurt if you keep this up. I'm shocked you haven't been hurt already. And Orange Cassidy did a funny bit. And I was like, okay. And Brian Cage debuted, and that was cool. I like Brian. Mostly from his Lucha Underground days. That's where I really got familiar with him. And he won the match. It's like, all right, we've got Moxley versus Cage to build up to. I wish that match would be in front of a crowd, but again, it is what it is. We just kind of got to take what we're given. But, I enjoyed the match for what it was. If they ever do this type of ladder match again, I hope they do something where, like, the match is over before all the entrants have come out, just to kind of like make the luck of the draw not seem like a luck of the draw thing, to kind of take advantage of the rules a little bit and see if you can do something with that and give somebody something to gripe about. Let's say 8 of the 9 guys enters and the 9th one hasn't entered yet and the match is over before he gets out there, and then he raises a stink. It's like, it wasn't even fair. I didn't even get to go out there. And you can make an angle out of it or something. I don't know. Just throwing ideas out there. But so that was the ladder match. Then we got MJF versus Jungle Boy, which this match is more my cup of tea, where it's like, okay, you know who the heel is, you know who the face is, and they just go out there and play to their strengths. And MJF is so good at being a heel, and Jungle Boy is this great plucky underdog babyface, so watching them interact in a match that really didn't have a whole lot of story behind it. And, MJF's last pay-per-view match was a win over Cody, so you would have expected... apparently, from what I've heard, the original plan for this pay-per-view was supposed to be MJF versus Moxley. For the title, but with MJF gone for weeks and weeks due to the pandemic, they kind of switched gears a little bit. And so it felt like they did this just to get MJF on the card, and it was, with that said, it was fine. It was perfectly entertaining, and I enjoyed it, and I was glad that MJF won. I liked the finish. I thought the roll-up finish that they came up with was pretty cool. Kind of reminded me of some of Bret's older matches back in the day, where Bret was always great at coming out with like these great roll-up finishes. So that was enjoyable. The right guy went over. I was happy with it. And then we got the TNT Championship, Cody versus Lance Archer, the tournament finals. I think of all the matches on the show, this is the one that got hurt the most by not having a real crowd there, because there's a bunch of like, smoke and mirrors type things that they did that I think would have played great in front of a crowd, like Jake and Arn getting into it, and Cody and Lance stealing each other's mentors' finishers and using it to taunt the other mentor. I thought that was a really cool spot. Mike Tyson, if this had been at the MGM Grand, I think that would have played better because he has such a history in that building. with all the big fights that he had. I think it would have felt like a bigger deal. As is, it just felt like, oh, here's Mike Tyson. Here he is. Oh, look, he's yawning right there on camera. Which that wasn't great. So this match again had a lot of stuff going against it, and I think this is the one that was the most negatively impacted by the lack of a crowd. But overall, I thought it worked. I thought it was solid. I enjoyed it. I was glad to see Cody win the title, although that belt looks tragic. AEW had designed some pretty nice belts up to this point. That thing, and Tony said on commentary that it was incomplete. And I'm like, I sincerely hope so, because that thing looks like a toy. It has that. I think what they were going for, I think they were trying to model it after the old NWA TV title belt, but it just looks like one of the WWE's cheap-ass, fruit roll-up belts, with the tag belts and, the Universal title. It's they look like fucking, the Cruiserweight title's another one of those. They look like fucking fruit roll-ups. What's with this multicolored bullshit? It just looks stupid. I wouldn't be caught dead wearing something like that. Even if I was an athlete that would win a title belt, I'd look at that. It's can we get a new belt, please? Because this thing looks fucking stupid. But who knows? Maybe I'm just a bitch. Who knows? But I enjoyed the match, and I was glad that Cody won. I think having him win it kind of elevates the title a little bit more. And considering he can't go after the world title, it kind of makes sense to kind of give him this. Cody is in a precarious position as being an executive vice president, one of the founders of AEW. He's going to bring with him that criticism that Triple H tends to get, where it's he's in charge and he puts himself over. Jeff Jarrett got that a lot in TNA. And for the people criticizing Cody for this, I think it's important to realize it's okay, he lost his last 2 pay-per-view matches, put it over MJF at the last one to kind of help make a young star. He can't go for the world title, and Cody is also one of the most over guys on the show, or at least he was before, we stopped having crowds. And he's in the prime of his career. He's one of the best performers on the show. I would even argue probably the best performer on the show. So, kind of remove he's using AEW to push himself or whatever. Kind of, think about Cody's merits as a talent, and I think it makes a little bit more sense. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But then we got an unfortunate scenario where it was Penelope Ford stepping in for Britt Baker to take on Chris Statlander. Super disappointed that Britt Baker got injured and had to be pulled from the card, because she's been a delight to watch on TV. So this match kind of felt like it had even less steam going for it than it would have had before, because once you lose who I thought was the star of the match, now it's no, I don't care. But as a filler match, it was quick to the point, and I'm thinking about doing a video talking about match length and how maybe we should think about moving towards shorter matches to kind of make wrestling shows a little bit more exciting, because I think matches have just gotten way too long now. On all shows, matches are just getting way too long. And here it was a quick 5-minute deal. They went out there, hit some cool spots, got to show off a little bit, and it was a filler match. So it came with lowered expectations, and they succeeded in lowered expectations. So it was fine for what it was. And I'm totally okay with matches like this being on the card. Dustin Rhodes versus Shawn Spears was a bit that I've seen a million times, where it's the heel comes out, cuts a promo, and then the face comes out and kicks his ass in short order. And that's pretty much what this was. It like I said, it's a bit I've seen a million times. I'm glad to know I wasn't the only one who thought that Shawn Spears' dick was hanging out when he got stripped to his boxers, and he had a little face of Tully Blanchard on the front of his boxers. At first I thought his dick was hanging out. I'm oh no, that's unfortunate. And then when I saw Tully's face, I was oh thank God. Although that raises all kinds of different other questions, but whatever. But yeah, for reenacting a bit that I've seen a million times, I thought this was fine for what it was. Dustin still looks great, and good for him. But yeah, it was, again, more filler. It was fun for what it was. And I believe next was the women's title match, Nyla Rose losing to Hikaru Shida, but it was a good brawl. The title change surprised me. I didn't expect a title change on this show, so it was nice to get that. The brawl was good. I especially appreciated the spot where Shida got slammed onto the craps table. I'm no, not the craps table. Yeah, it was a good wild brawl. I would have had the match end on the top rope Falcon Arrow, because that was the bigger spot. Just let it. And that's a criticism I throw out there a lot nowadays, where it's they do these really cool, impressive moves that should be the finish, and then they continue for like another 2 minutes, and the real finish feels flat, and it's like, yeah, you should have gone with the bigger move as the finish. And I've levied that criticism at everybody from like the lowest card guy you can imagine to top main event level guys. It's just, it happens way too frequently now, and but whenever it happens, I'm gonna bring it up. So this is another instance of that taking place. But other than that, I enjoyed the match. I thought it was a solid, nice, fun, wild brawl, and no more, no less. And then we got, I believe it was the world title match, Dean Ambrose, I still calling him Ambrose, Jon Moxley versus Brody Lee. And this is a match that felt like something that got thrown together because they didn't know what to do for the pay-per-view. Because obviously whatever plans they had for this pay-per-view had to change, given everything that happened. And I was kind of like not really looking forward to it. Brody Lee, I like that they signed him. He's still not fully established on the show yet, so this feels a bit rushed. And I wasn't expecting too much out of this, but what we got, pretty solid. I think if I'm going to knock anything, it's they brawled outside the ring a little too much to where I was like, okay, how has nobody been counted out yet? But it was a nice kind of ECW style brawl. They went through the stage at one point. That was neat, and I loved the finish where Brody Lee wouldn't submit, and referee basically just had to make a call. And yeah, it was a nice, solid, wild brawl. Probably the best match I've seen Brody have since like his Wyatt family days, like their matches with the Shield. So it was good. It was just surpassed my expectations, which is pretty much a microcosm of this pay-per-view. Surpassed my expectations. Perfectly solid match. Moxley had to win. I don't know. I would have been tempted to go with a draw here, just to kind of like, which I thought they were gonna do when they went through the stage. I'm like, well, there's your draw. But because I don't think like people were fully sold on this program yet anyway, and this kind of felt like a little too soon to be doing this match anyway. So maybe if they did a draw, they could build up more anticipation for a rematch down the road. But in any case, I thought this match was solid. I enjoyed it. Nice. I like a good wild brawl. And this match is actually closer to what I wanted the Hager-Moxley match to be. And that one I didn't think really worked, but this one did. So I was okay with it. And then we closed out with the Stadium Stampede match, which was pure... And it was just a complete and utter delight from start to finish. This is a perfect case of a match that went like 40 minutes. I did not feel it at all. I was having a blast watching this thing. And again, in the midst of a pandemic, and you can't have a live crowd there, there's been a move to these different kind of matches. And this wasn't into the cinematic style of like the Boneyard match or the Funhouse match or whatever that was. It was, but it was kind of like similar in a sense where, you know, you're cutting back and forth between different guys and you're using the setting to your full advantage to try and shoot and capture all these different things. So it was kind of cut from that same cloth. But I think when you're put in this situation, I guess the only thing you can do is just be creative. And this match was creative. They took full advantage of the football field setting with all these different things that they did, like Jericho throwing a penalty flag, challenging Aubrey Edwards' call, and poor Sammy Guevara getting suplexed up the field and into the end zone for a touchdown, and the Jacksonville Jaguars mascot getting the Judas effect to the face, and them brawling into the stands and the concession area, and Matt Hardy using the bell. If there's one part of this match that didn't really work for me, it was the Lake of Reincarnation bit that they did with Broken Matt Hardy, because it felt like they couldn't really dive into all the other Matt Hardy personas to really make that bit work. It just felt a little forced. But everything else, like, I was having a hoot. And the two stars of the match for me were Hangman Page, who came out on a fucking horse and chased Sammy off the field, and then proceeded to have a bar fight with Kenny Omega helping him against Jake Hager, which all of that was great. I love that. And Hangman came out of this thing looking like $1 million. And he's like, he has shined so much in AEW, and he'd been gone for a while because of everything that's happened. And bringing him back for this, it looked great. Like, he came off looking like the best guy in the match, I think. And then you had poor Sammy, who got tortured the entire time, where he got woken up by the sprinklers, he got suplexed up the field, got chased out by a horse, got chased again by the golf cart, which was great. And then he took the one-winged angel all the way to hell. Sammy, I mean, he got roughed up like nobody's business, but he was a star in this thing. It was fun to watch him get beat up. And, people have said this before with Sammy. He's got a super punchable face, and he has embraced that as his persona to such a degree that he's just making it magical. So, Stadium Stampede, I'll be honest, it's probably the match I've enjoyed the most since all of this started. All this, quarantine pandemic stuff. This is probably the match I've enjoyed the most since all of that began. So, nice capstone to the pay-per-view. Again, a pay-per-view I didn't have high expectations for, but after kind of a rough week for pro wrestling, what with, a suicide and a death, getting sucked in, drowning, sucked in out by the beach for Shad Gaspard and all of that, and all this unfortunate stuff going on. It was a nice, pick-me-up, and it was a nice, cheer-up, make everything better kind of show. And it was like, all right, I walked away from it feeling pretty good. And then, $50, I felt like it was $50 well spent, because it turned out I needed to have somebody put a smile on my face, and I felt like AEW did that. So I was okay with it. So hopefully they're able to do that again for their next show, because God only knows how much longer we're going to have to do this. But in any case, yeah, I really enjoyed the pay-per-view. Thought it was good. I enjoyed it. Again, it's not the type of thing I want to see as the norm. I want to get back to having real wrestling shows, but it's for what it was perfectly entertaining. Also entertaining was the charity golf match the next day with Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Tiger Woods, and Phil Mickelson. I enjoyed that as well. So I had some stuff to enjoy this Memorial Day weekend. But that is all I have for you now. Thanks again, everybody, for watching, and I'll see you all later.